You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. We're talking today about a potential new building code that could be in place in the United States that would require a fire sprinkler system to be added to every brand new home. And according to one particular group, the National Fire Protection Association, they said over 3,000 people die each year in the U.S. because of home fires. And they said, we want to see those numbers reduced. A fine goal, a noble goal. But I'm asking the question, is that going to be the correct solution? Well, anytime there is going to be a debate, an argument, the one thing that I would like to see happen, unfortunately, that is not happening in our society today, and that is to have a true intellectual debate without having to go to the point of name-calling and vilifying. And when you stop and think about that, isn't that what's going on in our country more and more? One of the reasons why things don't get, people don't get along at the legislature, I've seen it the last several times in committee hearings. People will vote most of the time along party lines. The Democrats vote one way, the Republicans vote the other, and that's happening in Congress. It's happening in the Senate, and there is no one that wants to think outside of the box. There's no way of looking at compromising. You don't want to take a look at the situation and say, well, let's talk about it within its own merits. And so if you are losing in the argument, what's one of the things that people will do? Well, they name call and they vilify. Aren't you getting tired of that, folks? Do we even pick up on it anymore? I mean, it's happened so much in our society that I think we've become numb to when that takes place. You know, I've seen it over and over again. Another form of this can also be seen in what I would call the zero tolerance argument. You've heard of that, right? The zero tolerance argument says, but if it saves one life, and then, of course, what is the answer? Well, of course it is. If it saves one life, you're talking about saving an individual's life. That's pretty dramatic. And if we can save one life, anything would be worth it, right? Because how can you put ultimately any kind of value on a life? But is that true? We're going to deal with that a little bit later on the show. I don't know that that's necessarily something that we always think about. Well, according to the National Fire Protection Association, there is someone from that organization, Maria. I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing her last name, Figueroa, and she said, turning to the National Association of Home Builders, when they said, we don't think it's a good idea to make fire sprinkler systems mandated for every new home being built, she said protecting lives should be a priority over profit. Well, do you think that's what is really happening here? Is there the same conflict of interest happening that with the National Association of Home Builders? Are they saying, hey, we're not going to sell as many homes if we have to keep increasing the prices? So is this a case of the National Association of Home Builders being greedy and doing that over the protection of lives and safety, as this woman was indicating? Do they have a conflict of interest, just like Orlowski, who is with the National Association of Home Builders, said was taking place with manufacturers who are going to where this international building code is being established, saying, you've got to use my product as being established as code. Well, as we take a look at the this whole debate, let's ask some questions, shall we? What would the cost be to add a fire sprinkler system to every new home? Because, I mean, if the price isn't that bad and isn't that much, it's no big deal, right? Well, according to one building association, this was the California Building Industry Association, they said that they figured that a home sprinkler system for every new home built would probably add right around $5,000 or so to the cost of a home. So we need to ask ourselves, is that cost effective? Is that $5,000 well spent? Well, what do you look at typically when you want to assess the cost effectiveness of a product in your life? Well, let's go through that, shall we? Is there, for example, savings anywhere else that would offset that expense? That's one question I would always ask right away. If I'm going to have to pay for something additionally, is it going to help me save money anywhere else? Okay, well, besides saving money, there's other things that are important too, right? But along with those lines of if I'm saving money, how much am I going to save? Usually we ask, what is the cost payback period, right? And isn't there a rule of thumb usually that if you can get your costs back in 2 years or less, you take a look at it and say, it's worth it. If I can save that in 2 years or less, it is usually worth it. But another question that we ask, even besides that, because there's more than important things than just saving money, and that is, does the product uniquely take care of my problem or issue? I don't mind paying for something if it will uniquely take care of it. I mean, let's use another example. Let's say you have pests in your home, and you had a exterminator who said, you know what, the cost for exterminating mice is going to be about, let's say $50 a month, and you're going to need to be on a program like that for a year, so $600. And our success rate is only, let's say 50%. You take a look at it and you go, wait a minute, I'm going to pay $600, $50 a month, and I'm still only going to get about 50% of them removed? I mean, if the other person came back and said, hey, I tell you what, you're going to have to pay us not $50 a month, but you're going to have to pay us $75. So you're going to have to pay pay 50% more, but we're going to give you a 100% guarantee that we'll get rid of them. I think you would do it. You take a look at it. Yes, there's more cost, but you ask the question, does the product uniquely take care of my problem? Yes, it does. Okay, well, in the issue of saving lives, does a fire sprinkler system uniquely take care of the issue? Well, let's take a look at all three of those questions, shall we? The first question that I asked, when you're trying to assess whether or not to go with it, is there a savings anywhere else that would help offset that expense? So we have the $5,000 expense. Well, according to the insurance industry, there is a insurance agent with State Farm here in the Twin Cities named Jim Lindahl, who was quoted this last fall when this issue was first being bandied about. He was quoted, I think, in a issue. I think it was in Popular Mechanics where the article first came out, and he said that there would probably be, if someone put and installed a home sprinkler system in their single-family home, they would probably see a savings of 10% a year on the cost of insurance. Well, what is the average cost for insurance for a home in the United States? Well, that could be anywhere between $450 to $650 a year. So if we use that idea and that quote, what we're saying is, shall we use the middle quote here? He said between $450 to $650 for insurance on your home in a year. let's use the cost $550 right in the middle. That means you'd save $55 a year. Okay, that would be the cost effectiveness. The second question that was related to that, though, wasn't it, was what is the cost payback of this product? Well, if you take the $55 a year and you divide that into the $5,000, the cost for the sprinkler system, you would have payback with not within 2 years, but somewhere around year 90 to 91, the product would have paid for itself on the area of insurance. So based on that information alone, would that make economic sense for you to be able to have that purchased in your home? I don't know. Not according to most individuals, just on the economic sense. But there are other factors, like I said, that's more important than just saving money. And we'll talk about that, so don't go away. That'll be in our next segment here on Where You Live on AM 1280, The Patriot.